Okay, so what we'll do today is we'll go through the process of getting your footprints from QGIS through Civil 3D and then into Max, where we can start building the model. So what you have is you've been given your Faulkner, or whichever district you've been given, and that is a really lovely shapefile, and if you open the attribute table you will see that it has a lot of additional information that we potentially don't really need. So one of the first steps to do with this would be, so that you don't ruin this particular file, you would right click here and go export and export those features as a new layer. So with that, just make sure that you are giving it a name. So you just got to put it in a certain place. So I would be saving it as Faulkner Flat 2. And I would just be making sure that you've got the right coordinate reference system. So in our case, we want to use GDA to MGA 55. That's not looking like it's popping up there at the moment, so it's probably to do with the fact that this project may not have the right one set. So just check the check what the coordinate reference system is of this layer. So it is GDA 94, just GDA 94, which means that it's a geodetic one. So export it, but select GDA 94 to map grid 55 as your export. So when you export, save features as, and select this one here. You might need to go through here, so just go through to GDA 94, and it's probably, yeah, pops up for me, so space / MGA 55. Okay, I've already done that, so I will just take you straight to the file that I have done that with. First of all, I might just show you what I have done to that file. So if we go back into this attribute table, you'll see that it's got a whole bunch of information that we don't necessarily want. But we do, there are 4 columns here that we really do need to keep. So what you can see at the end here is a, I will just delete this one for the moment because you don't need it. Let's delete those two. What we are going to do first, and this was in the previous video, is that you need to make a rounding off column. So this is coming through your field calculator and just typing in round, and then you can add brackets and add from your fields and values the value of the roof height. So that is the one that you can see here, and we just want to round roof height up to its nearest metre. We want to make sure that we are creating a new field. This is my field, and we want to go OK. And that'll take a minute to round off because I've got to think about it a fair bit. But at the end of that process, it will give you a column that is called whatever you called it, and it will have rounded off values from the roof height column. Now, what I should have done is showed you that in our exported file, which I have already done here. So I'm just going to open this back up again because it's easier to show you in this simplified file. So if I open the attribute folder file, the attribute table in this file, you'll see that I've taken, or I've gone into the field calculator and I've used the delete fields to get rid of everything except for that rounded value of the building heights and the latitude and longitude of those. So I might save that now. So I'm going to toggle editing and go save. Yes, please. Give me this simple file that I can then take into Civil 3D. So it's a similar process. So Civil 3D is also a georeferenced environment, but we'll go in there and have a look at what happens there. Alright, so in a fresh drawing in Civil 3D, probably just come in here and go to New, because you want to use a drawing template, and you want to use the metric drawing template just to make sure that you're not getting anything coming through in Imperial. That does load you up with a whole lot of Civil 3D layers, but it's kind of okay. So the way I've been told to do this most effectively is to type in the command map cs assign, and it looks like this, and then you want to type into here MGA, and we are in zone 55 in Victoria, so we will use this one and assign. Now it looks like nothing, but if you zoom in by the middle mouse button, we'll bring that to the center of your screen. You can then come into geolocation, and you can actually turn on a map hybrid. This is actually Bing Maps, and that will kind of take you to a that's the most correct way to set your georeferencing. So then, of course, you would need to come in here and come to your area of interest. Faulkner's reasonably easy to find because of the symmetry. So what we can do from there is, once we've found Faulkner, which is here, I can then bring in my shape file and turn it into geometry that Max will understand. So Max needs Cartesian geometry. So if I go in here and type map import, you can see there, map import, and I can then bring in Faulkner Flat 2, which was my nice simplified file. And that will think about it for a little bit. And just in this second one here, drawing layer 2, you'll need to pick use data field or layer name. So in here, what I would like to choose is our extrude height, just because this was one that I did earlier. So I want to use that as my layering system in here. And then I'm going to go OK and OK, and that will take a little while to process. Okay, so that's come in very nicely. And ideally, what we are wanting to do is we want to have a reference point in here that we can always come back to, something that we know where it is. So in, let's say we would have a look at this in Google Maps. And what I've done here is I've typed in a latitude and longitude, a known latitude and longitude. And where I've actually got this from is from when I search for Faulkner in MapRoom. This is the latitude and longitude that turns up. So what we're going to do is actually add to our Civil 3D drawing. We're going to come in here to our geolocation, and we are going to use a mark position, and we'll use this lat long one, and it'll ask me for my latitude, which I think is that one first, and then it will ask me for my longitude, which is this one from memory, and we'll put that into here. And then that will give us a base point. So we could just call that base point, like that. I'm going to turn my maps off because I really don't need them at all for this particular exercise. But what I want to do with this base point that I've got, oh, actually I'll just turn them on to show you that they line up reasonably well. So that's right on that aerial image that we've got underneath. What I want to do now is come to my Home tab and I want to make a new layer. I'm going to make a new layer with an underscore so that it sits at the top. I like to make it a colour so that we know what we're looking at. And then I can close those off. And I can just put this base point onto that layer. So at the moment it's on 0. I'm just going to put it onto that base point layer. And I could open up this base point layer and also just make sure that it is locked, because that will stop it from moving around or anything. While I'm here, I need to check my snaps, and I really need the node snap to be on for this particular exercise, because I need to come in here and add a line, and I need it to snap to that. Node. So it's just a bit of a line. I might also pop this onto the point layer. Let me, yep. And that is how our drawing needs to be set up. Now, if I was to do a polyline, so you can type PL from 0, 0 in this drawing, you'll see that 0, 0 is a million miles away from the centre of my drawing. Max is not going to cope with that, so I'm going to delete that line. So what we need to do is we need to trick it. And the way we trick it is we set what's called a user coordinate system. So what I can do here is I can select all of my geometry. First of all, I need to set that user coordinate system. So I type in UCS, enter, and I'm going to type in OB for object, and I'm going to select that line. It's a really important point, but I really, really need to remember that I've done it, because it can cause enormous problems down the track if you don't. Once that's done, I can select everything in my scene. I can export all of this together. It is still a really big file, so I would probably cut this down to an area of interest, but now I will type W block, which is short for write block. So it's going to write me a drawing file with all of that information in it. It's not going to take my locked file, my locked point. I don't need the locked point. And I'm going to save that somewhere sensible that I know where it is. So I'm just going to take those objects, and meters is correct, and we can just say, OK, I'm going to replace that existing drawing. So that's all looking like it's doing exactly what I want it to do. It will take a minute just because there's a lot of geometry. This asks if I want to include AutoCAD map information in the export. My answer is no, but I think it's still going to take it with it. Now, while I'm here, I'll just explain that these drawings, these objects are now divided by layer, so that all buildings that are 5 meters high are now on a layer called 5. This is excellent. Now, if I was to open that W block file, and I'll just do this for you so you can see it. If I was to open this file here, because I changed that UCS, you have to really, and this is really important, you have to remember that this drawing is no longer geo-referenced. I might even just try and remove that map, but let's see what we do. So zoom extents, this will give us our, I wonder if I can actually remove that geolocation. Maybe remove location. Let's say yes, because we really don't want this drawing to be geolocated. Because when I want to do my polyline from 0, 0, I want it to be doing exactly this. I want it to think that the centre of the world is that point I gave it as the export point. So that's excellent. That drawing is ready to take into Max, which I've got open here. First thing I always need to do in Max is come into my Customize, come into my unit setup, check that my unit setup is in meters in the system, and then come in here, just make sure that the display is metric meters as well. Right, so I'm ready to come into here and go to my import. I can import, just use the direct import button. Here's that file that I want to import. I can say open. It is bringing map information with me, which is not what I want, but we'll see how we go. And within here, we know it's in meters, so we don't need to rescale it. So that's fantastic. I think in here we want to set our Derive AutoCAD primitives as layer blocks as node hierarchy. So let's put this in, and we can leave everything else as it is. So we'll go OK. And that is our drawing. Now I can see some issues here, and the big issue is that our drawing coming through from AutoCAD has remembered its 3D information. So one thing that we would need to do before we just did this process would be to come into here and run the command flatten, because we don't want that 3D information coming through to CAD, through to Max. So you would run flatten, enter, and it will ask you remove hidden lines. You can say yes, it's fine, and that process will take some time. So I'll just keep going. We'll pretend as if I have been through the flattening process, and then I will just show you what we'll be doing with these entities as they have come in. So you can see here I've got layer 6. I can toggle on my Scene Explorer, and you can see that there's a bunch of things in 6. There's some interesting stuff about the way it comes through, because there's a couple of things on layer 6. You might just have to do each of those separately. That's fine. Linked geometry, it's not ideal, but anyway, we'll just run through this one. So on top of that edit spline, you would put an extrude, and we know that we want to put an extrude of 6 meters on there, so we will make that extrude 6 meters. Okay, so you can see how that's kind of going to work out. This will be a lot faster with flattened geometry, so you'll just be going through and selecting each of these 6 meters. Each one will tell you how much that extrude needs to be. So that is sort of the beginnings of building your model.